We're on Negaim Perek Yud Aleph, Mishnah Tet. Ninth Mishnah in the 11th chapter of Second Negaim. We're continuing to talk about tzarat of a beged. And we want to know at what point, we talked about thread, warp, and weft. We want to know at what time that's Shtiva Arev, and what point does the tzarat on the thread become part of the beged. Says the Mishnah, Hama'alem min ha'pika'at l'chaverta. Pika'at is a really interesting word. It's like the spindle. I looked it up in the Jastro. Jastro calls it the clue, the coil, clue of thread, of rope. It's a coil. So the Kahati and the others explain that this it was this spinning thing, this spindle. Okay, so the Bartenura explains the following: sometimes they make this peka'at, this spinning thing, the spinning like it was a spinning rod, the size of an amma or two amot, umegagalot umisavavot mizo lazo, and then they roll from one to the other, lasot peka'at gidola, to make from one peka'at to another. So I found this really cool Wikipedia entry on hand spinning, and in the entry they have this really interesting picture by the spinner, by William Adolphe Bouguereau. Okay, so what's interesting is, really, really fascinating here, is they show her spinning, okay, and like I made the picture, you can make it much, much bigger. So they show her, here's the spinning wheel that she has. She's spinning from her wool, and she's spinning here, and it turns and twists, and then she rolls the thread on this thing that she's spinning. And so the Bartenura says sometimes they would take this and take the thread that she rolled and roll it onto something else, and put it onto onto another larger one, so that they would hold it. And okay, so now what happens if we're going to see what happens if tzarat is on the thread on one side? Is that considered, and you're rolling from one to the other, is the whole thing tameh or not? Min haslil lechavero. Slil is eitz chalul kamin kaneh shemechabrim alav hamatveh. Okay, it's this hollow wood like a reed that you connect to the matvet, that you connect to the spinner. Again, the Jastro calls it salil, shuttle containing the spool. Okay, so you have one shuttle to another shuttle. And remember, the shuttle was used. I think it was used when you throw it back and forth in the weaving process. Mina kove elyon lekove tachtona. Kove elyon and kove tachtona are the top and the bottom of the loom. And remember, you're connecting threads from the top and the bottom. Right? You're connecting these threads. Let's see if I can find a very easy picture of the loom. Right? You have the threads from the top to the bottom, koved elyon and koved tachton, and then they switch up and down, and you're running the thread across. And you have the strings are going from one side. I think this is the koved elyon, and this is the koved tachton, and these are going in between. So you're literally rolling them and creating the material. Okay, so these are connections that you have, and the real question is, and we'll see, v'chein shnei dapei chaluk, shnira nega be'achad be'em, or two sides of a chaluk of a garment, and you're creating this chaluk, you're creating this garment, and they're connected in some way, but they're not sewn together like our garments. And nira nega be'achad be'em, and the nega is from one pakat to the other, or one salil, one shuttle, or one kovid, one of the reams to the other. Okay, harei hasheni tahor. So that's not considered a connection. Okay, because it's not considered enough of a connection to make the second one tahor. It says the Bartenura about tapei chaluk. Nami enan chibur. It's not a chibur. V'lo ke'en chalukim shelanu. It's not like our cloaks. Shemachatchinu mechabrim batei azroa, that you connected the two sleeves. Ushar chatichot betvira shel chibur gamur. It's not like our cloaks, like this. It's one garment. Okay, tahu vaday chashiv chibur ki'ilu beged elachad. It's definitely considered a chibur. Ella Mairi de lo mechaber kulei hai. It's talking about lo mechaber kulei. It's not that connected. Bartenura basically says, I'm not entirely sure what chaluk they're talking about. Maybe they basically had something on the front, something on the back, and it was had loops connected. That who knows what their chalukim were connected by, but clearly it's dapei chaluk. Okay, the pages, the pieces of this chaluk that they would wear, they were just somehow connected. Lo kulei hai, not. So therefore, if one of them has tzarat, the other one is not tameh. B'nefesh hamasechet ub'shti omed harei elu mitamin b'negaim miyad. Nefesh hamasechet. Look at the Bartenura for a second. The soul of the masechet. Chut ha'erev shenichnas letoch hashti kenefesh letoch haguf. So you're talking about when you're doing the loom, right? And it's the weft. Great. The Erev that goes into the shti, it goes in. So you're pushing it in like the nefesh masechet. You haven't finished weaving it yet, but it's in. It's in there. The Erev that goes into the shti can nefesh the toch haguf. Until it's setting, until it's like literally sitting well. Okay, it's like it has to be connected to the shti to be connected to part of the grease. So that's nefesh masechet ub'shti ha'omed, or this, and the standing shti, the standing the other one, what do we call it? The warp, the warp. Ha'omed, it's standing there. It's considered, it's in, meaning you're in the weaving process. So those are hare'ilu mitamin b'negaim. Yeah, they're mitamei b'negaim right away. The Kati says that as soon as, even though they're not connected to the thing, as long as they're in part of the garment, right? They're tameim. They're part of the garment. The garment becomes tamei. He says the shti, this warp, right? The shti. Let's look again at the picture. Okay, this shti here, Rabbi Shimon says, if it's ratzuf means straight or connected or flowing or straight. If they're straight, one or the other. I guess in the weaving process, like I guess in their looms, in their time, it could have become very haphazard. Until it was organized properly, then it wasn't considered, the weaving wasn't considered done. So he says if it was ratzuf, it was straight, then it's mitamei. Then if the garment's tamei, then it becomes tamei as well. All right, we'll stop here. I dedicate our learning to the memory of my father, Rab Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Make it a great day.